even if you're a service-based business, and even if you're a consultant, people aren't paying you because of your secret sauce and your knowledge. They're paying you for application of that knowledge. Knowing the information is one thing. Being able to apply it is a completely different skill set. Your unique differentiator, believe it or not, is not your secret sauce, it's the people that work with you.
Welcome back to Content Logistics. I'm your host, Baylee Gunnel, and today we're digging into one of the most hotly debated topics in B2B marketing. Should you give away your secret sauce for free? If you're a solo marketer or running a small team, you've probably felt the tension between hitting lead goals and building real trust through content. Our guest, David Ebner, is the president of Content Workshop, where he helps marketing teams use storytelling to hit business goals. We're going to unpack the business case for ungating, the mistakes to avoid, and a practical playbook. Let's get into it. Well, hey, David, thank you so much for joining the show today. I've been really looking forward to this conversation all week. And one of the most common questions I hear is whether people should gate their content or just give it away. And for a lot of companies, this is a real dilemma. On one hand, it feels like it's a direct way to collect leads. On the other hand, it can maybe cause people to bounce off of their page. But why do you think this is such a big debate?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Baylee. I'm excited to talk about this too. I've spent, I don't even want to say how long my marketing career has been, and this topic has been front of mind for a lot of it. And obviously tactics have changed over time. But I'll say that I think this is a discussion that needs to be probably about a broader topic, which is the understanding of tactics versus strategy. I think we get bogged down as marketers and individuals, for that matter, about tactics. And we spend too much time on the shiny new thing. There's a lot of people out there saying this is dead, this is how it should be, a lot of platitudes at both extremes, right? And I'm just not, I try not to get swayed by those conversations and try to focus on why things work. And once we understand why things work, then we can figure out the tactics on it, right? And I think gating is part of that, right? If you get down to the bedrock of it, should things be gated? Absolutely not. Things should not be gated. However, we are marketers. We are measured on metrics. We have KPIs. We want to keep our jobs and we want to keep our executives happy, right? So gating becomes a function sometimes of simply being able to prove that we're doing the work that needs to be done to be successful. That's a problem in and of itself that we can't solve today, right? I've been in many meetings where I had an executive once say, like, I don't want the arts and crafts marketing. I want like the real marketing. And I'm like, arts and crafts marketing? It got me thinking about a whole lot of other things. I literally have a fine arts degree, so I didn't say that on the call because, he'd probably think that I'm all arts and crafts. But in the end, we got to feel good about what we're doing, and we have to feel good about helping people with information. Gating is a mechanism of measurement, and sometimes gating is built as a barrier as part of what I call like the great barter, which is time and attention versus value. There's nothing wrong with a gate if the time and attention meets the value delivered and that value exceeds the token of entry, which is my information, right?
Yeah.
I fall down on both sides of this because I don't really care about the tactic as much as I care about why it works and why it's important. All day long, people gate content and consume it, right? I think of payment walls as gates, right? They are. Literally, you're giving them money, not just your contact information. And you're willing to do that all day long for maybe the news entity you like to get news from, or Netflix, or take a step back and think that's all content too. It's purely entertaining for the most part. Some of it's educational. There's some documentaries on Netflix that I've watched that felt like I was studying for a term paper. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And I paid for that. So I think let's take a step back, look at strategy and why they work and why they're important, and before we decide if gating is good or bad. Anyway, that's my hot take on it.
Love the hot take. I like your point too about sometimes like tactics versus strategy. And I notice when you feel a lot of pressure from the top to get results, sometimes we feel like we have to scramble to do tactics to show really early wins, when sometimes that isn't always what's going to help you with your overarching goals for the company. Anyway, we could go down a whole tangent and the whole thing just talking about that. But what are some of maybe the the hesitations you hear? Like, what are things companies or people are saying to you about why they're maybe hesitant to give away their secret sauce?
We're big proponents here at Content Workshop of giving away the secret sauce. And that's because we work primarily in content. I hear a lot of hesitations because people align their secret sauce with why people give them money. And I'll tell you this right now if you don't already know it. Even if you're a service-based business, and even if you're a consultant, so like the highest level of services that you can provide, it's what's in your mind that you give away. People pay for your time exclusively, not just what you can get done with your time.
Yeah.
But just the people aren't paying you because of your secret sauce and your knowledge. They're paying you for application of that knowledge. Knowing the information is one thing. Being able to apply it is a completely different skill set, right? So I'll use us as an example. We're a content marketing agency. We develop and build content. We build strategies. We build blueprints. We work a lot in SEO, all that stuff. We're happy to tell people exactly why things work and literally give them a roadmap on how to do it. And they still call us and ask us to help because we can do it better than they can, because we have the people. Your unique differentiator, believe it or not, is not your secret sauce, is the people that work with you. That really is it. We get that hesitation for those reasons. We feel like it's IP, that it's ours, and will anybody pay us for it if they have the information for free? And my pushback is always that, they could just go down the street. If your differentiation is how you do something, somebody else is going to undercut you every day, all day, right? The application of that knowledge, speed, and competency is why people pay you.
I recently reread How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a really old book, and some of the analogies were making me laugh, but that is one of the biggest lessons I pulled from that too, is if you want to make the big bucks, people are paying you for who you are, not necessarily everything you know or how differently you do things.
Let's talk about what thought leadership is, right? Let's take that out of the box for a second. It's a nice buzzword, but do people really understand it? But essentially all thought leadership is giving away the secret sauce, right? Like if you're producing thought leadership content, truly value-based content, then you're doing it already. In the end, I think that's what content is supposed to do. Content is supposed to demonstrate expertise. That's what it does best. And if you can demonstrate your expertise and that expertise provides value to people, they will consume it. And that's, giving away the secret sauce.
One of the things I hear sometimes too is, well, I could just write a blog using AI, or I could just do this using AI. And I think I love the go-getters out there who are like, I'm going to figure this out. And now I have so many tools to figure this stuff out. But there's also like definitely some concerns with that. But I'd love your thoughts. Is that something you've heard too?
Yeah, I mean, shoot. When AI became more prevalent and people started to use it in a business sense, at first it was a cool tool, and then people were like, oh, crap, like I can use this more broadly. We definitely lost clients. We had clients who were like, hey, we're paying you this much. We think we can do it ourselves, see you later in the best possible way, which is fine. And many of those clients, not to just clap back, but we will watch their sites and they don't produce any content now. And a lot of that has to do with even if the tool can do it fast and for you, you still have to pull the levers, and you still have to have quality control, and you still don't want to put something on your website that's not of high quality. So this is the same, not to take it back to the previous conversation, but it's the same thing with Gates, right? It's a tactic versus a strategy. The strategy is, right, producing good content of high value, right? The tactic might be shiny and new and all these other people are doing it. I did this, you can too, right? Oh my gosh, I hate that kind of content. But it still has to meet the barometer of why content works anyway, which is giving away high value to people in an authentic way. The problem with AI, what we're seeing is that if it's not meeting certainly content that matches the expertise of the brand, if it doesn't demonstrate that expertise, and it feels inauthentic to the brand because people are seeing through it for some reason, then you're going to do the opposite of what you're trying to do with content, which is build trust. You're going to dilute trust, right, with people. So, I think overall, AI is an amazing tool. I don't know how many AI tabs open right now on my computer, building all sorts of cool stuff. But I think of AI as a tool to help increase quality, not quantity. And I'll break that down just a little bit, right? In marketing and in sales, as you all know, there's this thing called the funnel, right? And it kind of looks like this, which is advantageous, right? So in any funnel, anybody will tell you the more you put in, the more that can come out the bottom. But also, you can build your funnel in a larger top versus a smaller bottom methodology when it comes to using tools like AI. You maximize how much can go in the top so you can be pickier about what comes out the bottom, right? So with AI, you might be able to produce 100 pieces, whereas before you could only produce 10. That doesn't mean you should publish 100 pieces, right? That means that you have 100 options to choose the best from and refine. Yeah. And that's how content has always been made, right? There's plenty of great ideas. There's reasons why you don't develop all of them and waste your time on them because you know they're not a good idea or they don't match your brand or your audience. But I think what this will allow us to do is maybe produce more, certainly, but like of the goal would be to produce more of the quality that your audience expects from you and maybe even increase that quality.
Yeah.
And AI can be like that. It's a funnel, not a hallway, right? Like we're not just everything that goes in does not come out the other end or should, as people who've used the tools know.
It does go back again to your strategy versus tactics. If you're just working on tactics, yeah, you could produce 100 blogs so fast. But the strategy behind those really needs to be there in order to actually publish them. Going back to, in our kickoff conversation, you had a phrase that I really loved. You described content as corporate philanthropy. And I love this. So it's just kind of the idea that giving away your best knowledge is an act of generosity, but it can still pay off in real business terms. So I'd love to dig into this a little bit deeper. Like, in your words, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, I might need to stop saying that, Baylee, because I'm sure I've got a client out there that is listening to this thinking, well, why are we paying him if, like, let's do something else with that money, right? But what I mean by that is, right, like, I think it's a responsibility. You have a responsibility to produce things that help people for free. Every company does. And the reason I believe that is you are given so many free mechanisms to run your business. Is it easy to run a business? Absolutely not. But you get, access to people's inboxes that you didn't have to pay for. Maybe you need like an email service provider, but you're hitting people for free. You get access to their social media feeds. You get advertising access to them. You get the ability to consume people's time and attention at little or no cost. Now, the tactics cost money, but the mechanism, the highway, is free, right? And the cost of that, I think, is giving away value, right? So your content, at least a percentage of it, if not all of it, really, all of it should produce value, but at least a percentage of it should be asking absolutely nothing in return, is what I suggest to people. And the reason you do that is not that you don't expect things to come in return, but it'll freeze you from the chains of what that KPI may have to be to show the result for that piece. And when you open up your eyes to what the true value you can produce for your audience and what you can do for them to make their lives easier, make them more money, right? Cost them less money, help them reach aspirational goals, you're going to build a level of trust with those individuals that is going to be timeless. And I use Moz as an example for this. I've been following them as a company for many years. They've been around for a long time. Big Moz fan. And before my first interview as a copywriter, I had no idea what SEO was. Like, I was a graduate student studying to get my MFA in creative writing, and I needed money, right? So I'm like, oh, copywriting, I can do that. One of the descriptions was like an understanding of SEO. And I'm like, what is that term? I had to Google SEO, which is a whole thing. And of course, I come up with Moz, and they've got thousands of resources. They have this whole like how-to guide on SEO. Well, at least they did. This was many, many years ago. I literally printed it out using all the ink in my printer and read through it, highlighted it, learned everything I could from this like, basic guide to SEO. And I got the job the next day at the interview, right? Many years later, I've never bought a Moz tool. And now many years later, I run an agency and we are shopping around a new SEO partner. And of course, they were at the top of my list, not because they're the best option. They are a good option, of course, but their key differentiator for me was how they treated me when I needed them. And they were there, right? That is a differentiator you cannot buy. You cannot buy that. And it's the long play, certainly. Good luck getting like corporate approval for something that could bring in a lead 5 years from now. But somebody's got to be looking out for that, right? Like, we spent a lot of time and energy of our budget on 3 months, one quarter, 1 year from now and what we need to accomplish then. But absolutely no time and energy is spent on 3 years, 5 years, whatever it may be. And look, there's massive turnover in marketing teams, massive turnover, both voluntary and involuntary turnover, right? I wonder why everybody is focusing on the now that, they are they concerned or doing work for a year from now or 2 years from now, or feel like they've set up a system of success so that they can stay in that job and be successful 2-3 years down the line? I doubt many could say that. And no wonder there's turnover, right? So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox here and just say that producing content, it is partially corporate philanthropy. I think it's something we owe to people because we have the knowledge and we have the access to them, and it pays dividends long term.
I can totally see that. And I love the example that you shared. A lot of the clients that we work with, and just a lot of people in B2B too, have really long sales cycles. And sometimes they're like $1 million plus deals, and maybe only like less than 5% of their market is even ready to purchase right now. So for a company like that to focus all on bottom of funnel, like let's close these, it just doesn't really make sense when there's so few people who are even ready to make that decision. And yeah, it can take 5 years. Like I love your example because it takes time. It takes trust building in order to get to that next step.
Yeah, agree 100%.
Yeah. So how do you make the business case then? The CFO is coming to you. They're like, why should we invest all this money in content?
That's literally the $1 million question sometimes. I always, when confronted with that conversation, flip the script onto the individual that I'm talking to, right? And if you start to ask them questions of what they do with their free time and spend their time and attention on, you're going to quickly find that they're consuming content as how they're spending their time, right? They have a newsletter that they read, they have a favorite blog, they have LinkedIn or people they follow, individuals, influencers that they follow, they have free, accounts or whatever it may be. And essentially opening their eyes to their own consumption of content and what it does for them, how it makes them feel, how it attaches them to brands, usually answers the question. People look at it as a cost center, but human behavior has proven this time and time and time again, that content is how people spend their time and attention, both in entertainment purposes as well as educational and commercial purposes, right? I think the goal is when you open their eyes to that, content can be not just informational, but it can be educational and it can be entertaining.
Yeah.
We measure everything against what we call the 3 E's here, is the content. Entertaining first. If it's not entertaining, people won't consume it. It doesn't matter how valuable it is. Again, people aren't here studying for the SAT. They are spending their free valuable time on something, right?
Yeah.
So there's no reason you can't make it entertaining. Then it has to be educational, right? It has to teach them something. They have to learn something in it, right? And lastly, it has to be engaging. You have to build a piece of content that allows the individual to not just consume it, but to act on it. Or act with it, maybe take an engagement like, filling out a form because it's gated, whatever it may be, right? If you can meet those barometers, then you're going to have successful content campaigns, and opening the CFO or the CEO's eyes to how they actually consume content and spend their time, and how wouldn't it be nice if our brand was like that too, that brand that you like so much? That's how you get across the finish line.
That's I love your 3 E's. That is a super easy way to measure a piece of content. Do you feel like that applies in different formats too, from maybe like a blog post to social posts and things like that?
Yeah, it applies to all formats that have ever existed since the beginning of time. Think about it for a second, right? Like content storytelling, brand storytelling, which is all content is storytelling, has always been ingrained in the human experience and has always been a touch entertaining, a touch educational. Think of all the stories. I mean, my mind is running with stories right now as examples.
So many.
But yeah, I think that medium is medium agnostic, that the 3 E's.
We've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but how does ungated content impact trust or brand perception over time? Yeah,
I mean, giving things away without asking for anything in return is the greatest way to build trust. If you think about your own life, your own personal relationships, who are the people you trust the most? And usually you trust people who have given of themselves to you. And then that makes you trust them with your information, with your time, with your life, even in some regards, right? This commitment to the other and service to the others, how trust is built. And that's exactly what we're doing. And again, gating the content first does not negate the trust factor at all. It's just about the trust. If you're going to gate something, trust has to already be there, that there is an element of value that greatly exceeds what I'm giving up to consume this content. Either way, gated or not, theoretically, think about it, all content is gated because there's always a price to pay to get in. And your greatest non-renewable resource is your time and your attention as an individual. And you are giving that away every time you consume something. So you can put a form in front of it or not. In the end, you are paying a price to consume all content. So anyway, you probably build more trust by not having a gate. But if you have enough trust built with the audience, the gate shouldn't really matter because they should believe that they're getting the value.
Wow. I love that. I want to snip at that. All content is gated with your time or whatever other resources you might be replacing in order to consume it. So what maybe examples do you have from your own work or maybe some of the clients that you've worked with where ungating it or just like giving away your secret sauce has led to some clear wins?
Yeah, actually I have a client right now. I'm not going to say their name because I don't know if they'd like that or not, but they are a very large cybersecurity company. And we help them, drive some engagement and traffic to their podcast that they do, which is completely ungated, right? Like you can usually listen to a podcast and pay nothing unless it's like a really great podcast and you pay $1 or $2 for it, right?
Yeah.
But we help promote that for them, and they directly can measure because they've got all the cool tools out there to measure it. Somebody who listens to the podcast and their journey through the marketing life cycle, right? They can attribute a touch point to that podcast view, and it inevitably anybody who has touched the podcast, right? They can measure their total contract value, and they back that into. Obviously, it's just one point of many points. There's something like 13 touches typically in a marketing cycle. So that being one, or on the front end, you can show that it's an entry point, right?
Yeah.
For that cycle. Would they have ever entered the cycle without that touch? I don't know. Can't answer that question. It's a dumb question to ask because we can't ever know the answer to that.
Yeah.
All I know is if it did work, why would you want to stop doing something that did work, even just once? I can tell you what's not going to happen is like that one would, it's probably not going to come at that point in time. So anyway, they measure it back to millions, tens of millions of dollars in revenue.
Whoa.
Not one-to-one. They didn't listen to the podcast and then go buy $1 million worth of stuff, but it's part of their attribution model measured that touch. So that was pretty cool to see. Now their volume is massive, so they have a lot of tools available to them to measure those things. And I have no idea. Don't ask me which tool they used.
Okay, that was going to be my next question.
Because Baylee's like Googling how to buy that tool right now. I think they piece together the data. They have their own developers and their own, marketing specialists that can pull those things. So that was exciting though.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think a lot of the time I hear qualitative points will get people in our sales cycles and they're like, wow, I listened to your podcast 2 years ago. But if you can get someone to listen to a 30-minute episode, like, wow, that is awesome. That's a good amount of time. Same goes for really any piece of content too. That's a huge win.
Yeah.
So now let's say we finally convince a company, like, let's give the content away. Let's give away your secret sauce. How does this actually work? What's the next step? Like, what does a workshop maybe look like for identifying some of these pain points that the audience is facing?
The first time we engage a client, we do a certain chunk of strategy, and that's always diving into the personas, target personas, their pain points, our solution, and how their life is better by applying our solution to their pain point. Knowing that is a great starting point for everything. It's where your brand story starts to be told. It's where your marketing tactics can derive from. It's everything. Knowing that. Not knowing that, you're just doing random acts of marketing at that point in time, right? You're just Tactics, all tactics, no strategy. Knowing your audience is number one for sure. And then you can dive in a little bit deeper to like, what are the important, urgent, and helpful things that you can produce for them? We usually like to look at larger proprietary data and how to apply that to a report or broader information. Building that kind of like very large report is a great way to start this campaign. You can use third-party information. You can survey a third-party audience. You can use all sorts of tools to get that information. You can use your own data. We saw this using the tool, right? Use those data points to build a narrative. And that big piece is a great kind of like hub for a hub and spoke content strategy, right? Then you can atomize that piece into a ton of little pieces, right? All those little pieces are a snippet, or they certainly derive value, but if somebody wants to learn more, they can go back to the larger piece. If you ungate all of that, let's say, you have the ability for multiple entryways to that piece. And with tools today, like you can measure, come on, you can measure so many touches, IP addresses, all that stuff. And you might not know what their name is and their email until they finally fill out a form, but then it'll backtrack the IP information to all the assets that they've touched before. If you're using any type of marketing automation tool, it should be able to measure that effectively. It's not always correct. And some people use incognito and all this stuff. And cookies, do they exist anymore or not? I don't know. Like there's all sorts of information out there. But building that large piece based on a major pain point, and then what we call is like feasting on it for weeks, right? Feast on the Thanksgiving meal. And then you kind of build smaller pieces branched off of that drive back to it. And you can do that via blogs are fantastic for that, right? It's a medium that, might get a little less attention these days, but still probably the largest consumed medium out there. Video certainly can help with those elements. There's just so many tactics that come off that. You can name them all, right?
Yeah. Wait, could you elaborate on what you mean by feasting on your Thanksgiving meal?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that big report, that big piece, think of it as like Thanksgiving, right? Like you're spending a lot of time and energy on that piece. That bird better turn out, right? Or whatever your Thanksgiving meal of choice is. And once it's done, you don't just throw everything in the trash. Come on. It's best the next day, right? So think of the things that you produce that take the most time and attention and really put all the effort you can into this masterpiece. And then break it out. Don't think about breaking it out until after you've created it. That's my strongest suggestion. Don't let your tactics influence your strategy, right? Yeah. Like just build it at the greatest value that you can for your target audience. And then once it's built, or you're pretty close to being done, I guess. Yeah. Before it goes to design, right? You can probably start thinking of atomizing it into a bunch of little pieces and snack on it for weeks.
Yeah, I hear people refer to that as a lot of different ways, like would you say like pillar pieces of content or things like that, and then we repurpose them and break them out? And
yeah, exactly. So like you've got the big report is usually not what I would call a pillar, but only because pillars are commonly derived from like cornerstone content on websites where you're really looking for a hub and spoke from an SEO point of view. Now, it can be, but typically these reports aren't about keywords, right? They're not derived from a target keyword phrase. They're maybe, of course, you're going to work those in because why not? Yeah. But yes, it's the same hub and spoke method, but just to not confuse people too much, sometimes when we talk about pillars in Cornerstone, we're talking about SEO only campaigns versus something that's a little different. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for walking through that. I mean, maybe jumping into a little bit of tactics. Mm-hmm. How do you go about choosing maybe what formats to use?
Yeah, we like to backtrack ourselves into the audience a little bit on that to decide what format. You've got essentially like the pain point you're trying to solve. What are you trying to help somebody with? And then you have to ask yourself, okay, here's our audience. Like, what mediums do they typically use, and what message? How do we frame this message so it matches the medium and the audience, right? So like, actually how you narrate the piece, the words and the images that you use should be aligned with both the audience and whatever medium you're going to send out the message in. So whether that's email or social or on a blog or whatever it may be, right? Like there's better choices for words and graphics depending on those elements. It doesn't change the thing you produce, but it may change how you visualize and deliver that piece. So we usually back into that and then work our way around. Like there's no reason to create, if your target audience is, if you're B2C and your target audience is 60 plus, we have a client who builds software for HOAs, right? So you're talking about like HOA boards. Like okay, like running ads on Instagram or TikTok, not exactly
Yeah.
good. I mean, great content, maybe the medium doesn't match the audience and So I think falling back on that is perfectly fine. But also think about your message too and how people are going to consume it. What format is it? Is it short format? Is it long format? Do you have more time? Typically, anytime you're delivering content, you have to really focus on the visuals pretty heavily. We tell our team, like, the visuals are what draw people in. The words are why they stay, right?
Yep.
So very typically on, social, you're skimming a feed, right? Or whatever you're doing, right? Like in ads, same way too. Visuals bring people in. Whereas a medium like a newsletter, the subject line is everything, right?
Yeah.
The subject line is everything. So anyway, all that being said is tactics. There's plenty of tactics to choose from. Just make sure they match your audience as far as where they consume that type of content, and then kind of maybe curtail your words and graphics to match that as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time I mean, you see a lot of recycled content too across like social channels. So I just love your point of tailoring it to the channel and yeah, just really focusing on where your audience is spending their time and when they're going to be in a good mindset to take in whatever type of content it is as well.
Yeah.
So if a team, they are like, okay, let's do this. Let's make some awesome content. And maybe they get their first couple pieces out and published. What kind of results can they maybe keep an eye out for within like the first 30, maybe 60, 90 days?
That is so hard to answer,
Yeah.
Baylee. And I know everybody's looking for that answer because that's what they're going to be measured against.
Yeah.
All I can say is it's impossible to know how your content is going to hit unless you already have an audience you've built trust with. Building trust is time. It's doing what you say you're going to do over time. That's the mathematical equation for trust, right? So you're starting from nothing typically, and you don't have trust built. So it's going to take a really long time. Like don't disabuse yourself of the time it takes. It's not going to be quick. I'll also add this. No one is going to care about your content as much as you do. Don't assume when you produce something that you really love and is great that people are going to care. You're going to get led down super fast on that front. Maybe your mom, right? Like your mom might be excited. I think my mom still likes a bunch of my LinkedIn posts and stuff too, which is
sweet.
awesome. Yeah, it really is. She's the best. So yeah, don't get bogged down in that. You're starting a process that takes a long time, but it's got to start sometime. And I've been spending a lot of time. I'm always a lifelong learner. I'm always trying to better myself in a lot of different ways. And I heard somebody say on an Instagram post at some point in time that discipline is you being a butler to your future, right? That's all discipline is. So from a team and producing content, keep producing it, keep putting value out there. You're just being a butler to your future, which means the leads, the audience, the followers, the clicks are going to happen better, faster, later in the future. So just because you don't get them now does not mean it's not working. You're working toward a future state that is better, and it may take a while to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think it's funny. I asked you this question, but I always am like, it's going to take at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Like to really see any results. It definitely takes time. And there are definitely, I think, some things you can keep an eye out for is just early indicators that it's maybe working early on. But yeah, it definitely takes time to see those results.
Yeah, and we can put whatever date or time we want on it. In the end, we're not in control of that because it's other people. Like you can control everything in your life for the most part, but what you cannot control is other people. Yeah. Just stop trying. So, but that's what we're trying to do with marketing all day long is influence other people's actions, right?
It's a fun job. It's a really fun job. Yeah. Awesome. Well, are there any signs that you like to look out for, like we're maybe not putting so much focus on form fills early on, but what are some things you like to keep an eye out for to see that we're maybe going on the right track?
Yeah, I think just views are important and time on page is important. Most of the marketing assets we build, even if they're like a downloadable, we still build a web format for them. That would be a big suggestion I have for the audience. Like usually gated things, people are thinking, oh, like I'll just deliver this to their inbox. Don't just do that. Build a website experience for them. And the reason I say that is medium matters, right? Like it's great to have something delivered to your inbox when you know you want to read it later. But if you want to read it right now and you're on your phone, these PDFs and other formats are really tough to consume well, right? They're just not designed for that. So I would build a web format for it. We like the scroll a story is what we call it. But like you scroll down, maybe you have some GIFs, right? Like animation that happens as they move through the page, stats and stuff can move for those big content pieces. But even if you gate it, just send them there after, and then also let them consume it as a PDF or whatever later if they want to. But that'll give you time on page. And I think that is the greatest indicator that you're going to find of value being delivered to an audience is how much attention they're actually giving it. Forget number of sessions, forget number of clicks solely. Time on page is you proving value to people, right? Impressions are not really important. Sorry to say. Like if it's a brand awareness campaign and you want to start to get into the psyche of individuals, maybe that's a metric you want to measure, right? But when we talk about delivering value to people, the blip format is not delivering value or sinking in for people, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would focus on. Even if the views are few, if you've got 5 people, 10 people viewing something, they're averaging like 2-3 minutes on it, you're probably doing okay. You found like product market fit at least.
Yeah.
Now you need to amplify it. Maybe it's time to put some money behind this, right? But if you're looking for, is this the right, if we found a vein that's worth exploring more, that's the one I would look at.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense too. It's always funny looking at impressions. Like, wow, there's so many.
Of course there's so many, right? That's what that's what we're getting billed on. Come on. Like, and even clicks too. Like, there's so many. Great. That's because, come on. Like, that is how it's monetized from the platforms of choice, right?
Yep. Awesome. Well, we covered so many things today. Lots about just giving away your secret sauce, following that 3E framework, as well as how to maybe convince people in the C-suite to follow this strategy, comparing strategies versus tactics. Wow, lots of ground covered. Is there anything else you want to add? And then I have just one last kind of fun question for you.
I just give yourself just a little bit of grace as a marketer and a content creator maybe. This is hard work, right? And you should feel good about the work that you do, right? There's this whole concept of moral marketing, which I've been diving into deeper. Maybe next time you have me on, Baylee, we can talk about that more. But don't be so hard on yourself. And work with your executives to understand the broader value of what you're bringing to the table. Don't be an order taker. When marketing becomes an order-taking department, you're a cost center. Yeah. That's what you are, right? So, own the aspect as much as you can and do your best so that you can feel good about what you do at the end of the day.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, my last fun question for you is, what is your biggest content marketing ick? So something just really annoys you when you see it.
I used to call them, I shouldn't call them this anymore. It kind of dates me a little bit, but I used to call them the duck-lipped selfie, right? Marketing, like the whatever that is. Yeah, sure. It's talking about yourself extensively, like nobody, not individuals. Let me take that back. Like you celebrating yourself as an individual. I got this cool new job, this new opportunity, whatever it is. That is gold because people care about you as an individual.
Yeah.
People don't care about your brand reaching some sort of milestone, whether it's ARR or it's whatever. You can put the Mad Libs calculation together yourself. That is something that's going to erode trust. And people think that their brand story is about them, and it's not, right? Your brand story is about the people you help. That's what your brand story is about, right? So it's an ick, certainly, but like it's not their fault. Like they don't know. So earlier this year, Content Workshop, we merged with another agency. We wanted to tell people. We were excited about that stuff. Like we wanted to tell people all about it. Then we started thinking of like, what do we do? Just like a press release or something? Like, no, that's just about us. Like what value does anybody get out of that?
Yep.
So we decided to do we did a little like video about that they're a Canadian company and it's all about like the Canadian Americans like coming together in a time in which they desperately need that, right? And we made a drink, we made a cocktail for our merger. And
wow, what a timely response.
Yeah, I know. And we have this whole thing. So we have to let all of the clients know, right? Like that we're working together now. And, obviously there's a very negative sentiment, at least for the American government up in Canada right now. And people don't realize this. You go to Toronto and go through a grocery store and you'll see all of the American brands turned around, the labels turned around. That's the level that we're at right now. It's pretty serious. So anyway, and for all certain reasons, right? Like there's no shade to anybody on that front. But it was really tough. We had to email them all and talk about like our stance on the relations between the countries and like how we're going to be the people who are prove what the relationship should be like, how good neighbors should treat each other. And we take that extremely serious. So anyway, all that being said is like we try to make it not about us. And that's my biggest ick is don't make your marketing about you.
Yeah. 100%. I like to refer to that as selfish content. I like your duck for a selfie.
Duck lip selfie, yeah. I like it.
Better though. Your duck lip selfie. That's awesome.
There's a whole generation that has no idea what I'm talking about, but that's okay. Actually, multiple generations. I think we're the only generation that understands this. So.
Amazing. Well, Thank you so much for chatting through this. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Baylee.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Content Logistics. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. Bye!